I'll be honest, I didn't expect one simple practice to unlock so much in me. But after one session with Evie, I cried, I released, I softened, and for the first time in a long time, I felt safe in my body again. I didn't know something so simple could shift so much, not just in my nervous system, but in how I show up in life. By the end of this conversation, we actually close with the same powerful practice, one I now return to almost every day. Welcome everyone to Let's Talk, where we dive into all things spirituality, personal development, and all the things. I'm Lex, and today I have a very special guest to me. I get to sit down with someone who has held space for me in such a deep and healing way. So welcome, Miss Lovely Ivey Perez.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. I've been working with you for a while in group sessions and most recently in personal one-on-one. And I wanted to bring someone like you on because breathwork is something that I utilize as modalities for myself as I'm going on this journey. So I would love to have you introduce who you are and what got you into breathwork now.
Sure. So my name is Evie. My journey with breathwork was an interesting one because when I first learned about breathwork, I had never heard of it before. So I was at this very pivotal crossroads in my life, and I decided to go to a healing retreat in Costa Rica. And each week they had a different facilitator doing something different for the participants. This particular week that I was available, breathwork was being given to the participants. And it turns out that I was there at the right week at the right time. And it was, to say that it changed my life is a complete understatement because it really allowed me to tap into parts of myself that I think were buried very deep. You know, as a child, like I never really spoke about my emotions. It just wasn't something that happened in our household. So I feel like I moved through life just kind of pushing things to the side, not really understanding why I was responding to certain situations the way that I was. And the breath work actually allowed me to tap into my heart space and get out of this thinking analytical mind. That was something very different because I am very type A. I like to have control of everything, and I had very little control in this setting, but I felt safe enough to sort of let go of that control and allow myself to navigate what was coming from the practice. And that was kind of how I came across breath work. When I came back from that retreat, there were so many different layers that it peeled for me. Every night we would do breath work, and each night I was getting something completely different. So when I came back, I was thinking, like, how can I bring this back into my communities, into spaces for individuals that look more like me, that can resonate with my life experiences? And so I took probably like a year or so to integrate that whole experience. And I wanted it to be very heart centered. I didn't want it to be like this egotistical thing, like, oh, I'm going to do this thing, you know, and it's going to look this way. Like, I really didn't know the mapping or the roadmap of what that would look like. So I think that year of just like finding myself was really, really pivotal before I actually stepped into my breathwork certification process and really identifying what I wanted to bring into that space. So that time allowed me to find those answers, and I'm still open to growing and developing, right? But that was kind of my journey. It was like I had no idea what it was. It completely transformed my life, and then I wanted to bring it back to individuals, and that's how it all kind of came about.
Awesome. Well, you sound like you had a whole world experience of coming back. And similar to what you said, I kind of just wanted to try different things that may work out with me. I do actively go to therapy and things like that, but I wanted something deeper. And I like how you were able to just at least be open up to the experience and see what it was like for you and how it has transformed your life. What I want to really ask is, how are you able to still continue to hold space while you're continuously doing that for yourself at the same time?
That was a practice in and of itself because I really don't want to step into spaces bringing in any of my energetic stuff in there, right? Like anything that I'm working with or dealing with. I do a lot of preparation before I start any breathwork sessions. That can look like, arriving early, right? So I have that space to set it up, to cleanse with, with whatever tools I use. Sometimes it's just to drive up, like playing certain music and kind of like sometimes I cry on my way to sessions. There's no particular reason why, but I think I'm just like shedding and creating space for others.
Mm.
And I've learned to accept that because at first I'm like, am I just like completely dysregulated? Like, what's going on? And then I just learned to honor that. Like, it's fine if I'm releasing something that maybe I just don't want to bring into that space, right?
Right.
And also understanding how to kind of create a shield or a barrier to my energetic body to others because I want to make sure that I'm not bringing any of that home. I remember when I was first facilitating sessions, I would come home and I'm like wired up, like I couldn't go to sleep because it was so much, right, that it was coming up. And that's completely changed now. I've learned that like, everything that happens in the session kind of stays within that container. So holding that sacred space and learning how to, remove my personal self from the experience as a facilitator has really been beneficial.
Yeah, because that's something that I admire about you because I feel like you come in with like a clean slate when I work with you personally. And I just think like, all right, if Evie is able to provide the space, like she's also human too. Like, how does she continuously showing up in providing such a great space for me as I navigate through um things, blockages, patterns, things that I'm trying to break. So for people who are new to this, how would you particularly describe breath work? I know in the past, at least what I've experienced, is that I thought it was very similar to meditation. And while I do see some elements, I do notice a drastic difference. So would you be able to explain more about what makes that different?
Yeah, sure. The first thing I say that it's not just breathing, because a lot of times I invite people to breath work and they're like, well, isn't it just breathing? So there is breathing fundamentals, right? So in the session, I teach what a proper diaphragmatic breath looks like. A lot of times when we breathe, we're doing chest breathing, right? Just normal day-to-day breathing. So what I teach is not a breath that you're doing, across the day, but in this particular experience, you are. So the breath changes and it's different than what you would do on a normal basis. But that breath actually helps kind of like tap into that parasympathetic nervous system, that rest and digest state. We're always usually operating on a very, like fast going pace. And it's really difficult for some people to slow down, and that's normal. So for those that have never tried breath work, it's typical that you can come into the session and be all in your head for a while thinking like, am I doing this right? Like
Yeah.
this feels uncomfortable. So what I ask people to do is just come with an open mind. Be open to whatever comes from the experience, and you're going to get exactly what you need and not necessarily what you want. Sometimes it is working through those phases of discomfort, whether it's the physical sensations that can come, like, the very tingly sensation, the feeling very heavy or weighted, sometimes the tetany, that clamping up of the hands or the body or the facial area. That's all normal. And sometimes that can pull people away from the experience and feeling like, am I doing this right? Is this safe? So my goal as a facilitator is always to explain all of that on the front end so that when people, if they feel these things during the session, they're not freaked out by it and they can dive a little bit deeper and work through that discomfort and kind of go past that area of, the resistance that they're feeling in their body. So there's a lot of things, right? Breathwork can just be very different for every person. You've done breathwork with me a numerous amount of times, and maybe, you can even say that what you felt last week in a session may be different from 2 weeks from now in your physical body, in how you process information. So I think just coming with an open mind and, like you said, like just being like a sponge. I'm going to take whatever comes from this, take what I love and work through what I don't really love to go deeper the next.
Yeah, I feel like, at least personally, with my group sessions, I felt like I was open to the idea of breath work. I've seen so many different things about it, so I did honestly come very nervous at first. But as I've gotten to know you and how you kind of guide me through each, I would guess, each cycle of breath that we take together, I've noticed like if I tend to zone out or if I'm feeling all these different sensations that might be nervous for someone that I've never experienced before, you'll you'll say things to me, you'll either fan me or spray something or things like that to help kind of ease myself back into what I'm pretty much here for. And that helped me able to dive a little deeper, which I generally appreciate. And I feel like I personally never went to any other breath work sessions besides your own. So for someone like you that before you became a practitioner, you practiced that for your own practice, what is a unique element that you bring to breathwork personally that may be different from maybe a typical session or from any other sessions?
Yeah, you're right in the sense that there are a lot of very different breathwork modalities. And for me, I feel like I bring my ancestors with me to every session. That's something that I truly connect with. And, my ancestors are Taino from the indigenous people of the Caribbean. And when I started my own healing journey, I really felt like I needed to do a lot of ancestral healing for my mother, my father, all those that came before me, because I really felt like I was carrying this heavy sense of like weight and things that were just not dived into. And so I felt like this personal responsibility to do the work for my own children. And when I step into sessions, I feel like I come with a squad. You can't see them, but they're there and I feel them. And, I play medicine music in my sessions. I use Florida water. I burn copal. And those are all things that I personally resonate with. And I feel like if I can connect with the session, I hope that that translates over into the participants and so that they too feel that session. So that to me is very unique in the sessions that I offer. The breathwork modality is what it is, and I work with the meditations and kind of switch up the meditation a little bit depending on what session I'm hosting. But for the most part, I feel like I bring all of my tools with me. I bring the drum that I handmade in ceremony. I'll bring things that I purchased or from indigenous artists. So those are all things that I use to help facilitate deep sessions. And I think that's what's unique about Brick City Breeze and what I offer to my sessions.
And I love how you said you bring your ancestors in, and for just especially black and brown people today in this community and the climate that we're in today, I just feel breathwork will be so important. And I want to ask you, how important do you think it is in this climate that we're in, especially that people that look like us, to incorporate breathwork into their day to day?
I feel like black and brown people in general just deal with a lot of generational trauma that's carried on, and we tend to live in this hyper-vigilant state. And so what breathwork does is really just allow people to tap into that body space, to feel a sense of safety in their body and to trust, that response. We're not operating in a fight or flight state when we're in this breath work, right? So it allows us, kind of trains our minds and our bodies to be able to get out of that fight or flight state and actually work through those trauma responses. There's a lot of integrational healing that needs to happen in Black and Brown communities, right? Releasing intergenerational, burdens, whether that's grief, anger, trauma, or anything else that's passed on to us. And it's really about like reclaiming our own healing modalities, separate from these systems, right? Like talk therapy is great, but how do we trust our own body to work through certain tough situations when we don't have those tools readily accessible to us? And the breath is always accessible, but you have to know how to access that properly in order to release whatever's coming up. I also think that, there's a lot of cultural aspects that are healing, whether it's drumming or certain breath rituals. Like breathwork has been practiced for thousands of years. This is not new. It may be more mainstream at this
Yeah.
time, but this is not a new practice. And
Right.
so it's almost like this re-remembrance of our ancestral roots. And when we tap into that in our communities, we're able to sit in community with people that look like us. And that by itself is healing. When you see someone in a session that looks like you and they're sharing something deep and you resonate with that, all those aspects are like, together can be so powerful to our communities.
Absolutely. And when I gotten to know you more and more, especially during our more recent personal sessions and things like that, someone that I can relate to and certain things like that. I felt more, I guess, ease coming into that because I did see someone that looked similar to me, or at least have experienced similar things based off the color of our skin and our backgrounds. And I feel like with everything that is external from us, something like you said, always accessible, is to have our breath. And that's something that we can always come back to center ourselves. So I appreciate you even just bringing it out there to know that breath is accessible and it's accessible to all people. So that's beautiful. And that's one of why I really resonate mainly with this modality in general. So I know when I first met you, we done a lot of group sessions. And now we recently finished up doing more personal one-on-one. What's your thoughts between the two? And have you noticed any shifts? Not, it could be with me or with anyone personally that you've seen them doing just group sessions with you, maybe on the one, like once a month, like something that I tend to do, and then us doing every week intense breath work. I just wanted to ask if there was anything that you've noticed between me or any other person you work with, or have you felt like a different type of impact?
So community breathwork is so powerful in and of itself, right? Sometimes just hearing people breathe next to you will help you go deeper into that experience, and the resistance that you feel coming into the session almost dissipates because you're like, oh, that person's going really hard. I'm going to go hard too. Or you know what? That person's having some sort of breakthrough, right? That can look different for everyone. It could be crying, it could be laughing. There's so many different layers to that. But it allows people, it almost gives you permission to open up too. And I feel like there's so much power in that. And I could feel that as a facilitator in a space like that. So there's a lot of benefits to it. But then also you get people that just want to go deeper, or people maybe that feel like a little bit still not open enough to share in that space and just want to have like a private session. So what you and I did was coaching using breath work. So that was amazing. First, because I got to learn and know about you on a, one-on-one basis, and seeing you evolve through the process from week 1 to week six, it was just amazing to see how open and honest and like your deep desire to grow. And that's something that I really appreciate on one-on-one sessions, because I'm able to work with that person directly. So the breathwork sessions that I facilitate are, right, like a breakthrough experience, and it works through a lot of different layers. But when it's a one-on-one coaching session, I'm getting to learn about the individual and asking them deep questions about their journey. What is it that you want to see out of this process? How can we mutually work together? What are some of your goals? And then I'm giving you tools week by week after we meet, and then I'm following up on those goals. So there's a sense of accountability that goes with that. And I'm following your transition from week 1 to week 1 or week 12. Sometimes I work with clients a lot longer. So it's different in the sense where group work, the integration happens on your own, right? And I always tell people you can contact me after a breathwork session if you have questions, but usually I don't hear from very many people unless it's like a testimonial, which I love to get. But the integration part is very individualized. Here, on a one-to-one basis, working with me, there is integration that happens on your own, but I'm sort of with you in that process. And I really love that cohesiveness between myself and the participant.
Yeah, your session, if I can have you in my back pocket every week going forward, that would be amazing. But you honestly provided me the tools that I could continuously do this on my own. And that has made the process much easier. I recently went through a major shift within myself, and I wanted to utilize this opportunity as I'm going through these different, I guess, emotional blockages, to utilize my breath, because like I'll try to find time to have meditation, or I'll try to find time to journal, or I don't have time to really sit with myself. But like you said, the breath is with you everywhere you go, and you can always find that little time and space to do that for yourself. So I want to thank you immensely for the time spent that we've had. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to keep working with you and everything like that. I just wanted to say, at least on that, I guess that what I considered a rebirth for me, it definitely helped make that transition much better for me. So I want to thank you for that. But also, if anyone that's listening and they will want to start breathwork for the first time and didn't know where to start or pretty much like where to begin, what is a simple breath or a practice that you're able to provide us that they can do right now?
Yeah, so one that is really helpful, it's actually used in the military a lot, is box breathing. So, we can do that now, right?
Yeah.
If you could close your eyes, right, for a second and just like find some length in your spine, that's always really important to open up the rib cage. And then all you're doing is inhaling for 4. So you can inhale through your nose. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale through the mouth. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. In, hold, exhale, hold. So that's a 4-4-4 breath. So if you envision a box, you're inhaling for 4, holding for 4, exhaling for 4. So that breath really helps just calm the body down, accessible to you at any time. I tell people if you're at work, if there's a challenging moment that's happening, just use a simple box breath. If you want to turn on like a good tune that you like, it allows you again to get out of the mind a little bit more and into the body. Do it for a song, right? 3 to 5 minutes a day at any time when you're waking up in the morning to start your day, at the end at night to fall asleep. It's really, really helpful.
Yeah, I use the box breath all the time, but I definitely mainly use it after like if I dealt with like a difficult patient throughout like work and stuff, or they're carrying a lot of things that I need to at least process and release and not carry for myself. So that is definitely something that it's a nice simple way to carry your breath. So, in closing, I wanted to thank you again for holding such a great space for me and for others. And I am very proud of you. I'm proud of the space that you provided. You make it very safe and accessible for everyone. So, I would love for you to share where people could find you. And I'll definitely link everything in the description below.
Thank you. Yeah, if anyone wants to connect on breathwork, you can follow me on Instagram at Brick City Breathes. You can also email me at brickcitybreathes@gmail.com if you want any information. I have links on the tree to my website, and I post about classes regularly.
Okay. Again, Amy,
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining me and thank you for taking the time and sharing your space and energy with all of us.
Yes, thank you for having me.
All right. Until next time, all, I will catch you guys soon. Take care.